because most people are afraid of it. And from someone, me personally, most of my life, I hesitated everything. And I thought it had to be structured until I sat down and I said, you know what, let's just have fun with AI. I have nothing to lose. And now here we are just having fun. And I'm learning as a 53-year-old woman how to have fun. So I think that's really important and significant.
Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhner. Mona Bevar's multicultural journey from Iran to the United States shaped her passion for bridging cultures and fostering meaningful human connections. This passion led her to launch Delish, a platform that redefines gifting by creating unique experiences that transcend borders and traditions, and what we're going to be talking about today, her AI company, BlueApples.ai. As a university professor, entrepreneur, and strategic marketing expert, Mona integrates emerging AI technologies to enhance storytelling, ensuring brands connect with audiences in a deeper, more authentic way. Her expertise in AI consulting and prompt engineering helps corporations harness AI for content creation while preserving that very important human touch. Beyond her entrepreneurial ventures, Mona is a sought-after speaker, advocating for AI as a tool that augments, rather than replacing, creativity and connection. With a vision of a more empathetic, globally connected society, she blends tradition with innovation to create impactful cross-cultural experiences. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about Mona's approach to AI-driven brand storytelling, the future of human connection, and how businesses can use AI without losing authenticity. So if that wasn't enough of an introduction, I don't know what was. Hello, Mona.
Hi, Nicholas. Thank you for the full version of the introduction.
Exactly. Well, I think it just gives a nice round picture. But before we start and go into AI, I have to say that I loved your book. And it's about olives and Italy and understanding how to pair different olives, which is fantastic. I mean, who knew there was such a variety?
Yeah, it's called From Grove to Table.
There we go. I had it
Yeah.
here. I don't know where it's vanished. Anyway, I'm going to put up a picture of that over here or over here so people can see that. And that looks really cool. And that comes from a bit of your background of being in Italy and obviously understanding olives and in viticulture and international marketing. And I love specifically looking at branding regions. I've done a lot of wine branding and regional branding of wine routes, which is great fun. But we're going to talk a little bit about BlueApples.ai. And very specifically, a couple of questions I wanted to ask here is moving from traditional marketing, which I think both of us have started out into, moving to this new generation of marketers that are being pounded on left, right, and center with services and tools from all of these new AI tools. What made you start BlueApples.ai, and how are you going to differentiate, or how have you differentiated yourself from other agencies that just do quick fix AI, 1,000 posts a day for $10?
That great question because there are so many out there. I was just speaking with someone else saying that all the social media that you see around AI, they're trying to sell you something from a prompt Bible to platforms that expedite and make your world just with a snap of a finger move forward. And unfortunately, it's not the case. So as you know, and as most entrepreneurs know, there's always a process to something. And unfortunately, or however you want to phrase it, today with AI, we all think that we're growing and we're competing and we're ahead of the game, but it's not necessarily the case because there is that pitfall of being generic. Because remember, in the past, we had a competitive advantage. That was always in our business plan. So our competitive advantage now is becoming exactly what the competitors have because we all go and sit in front of our LLM and say the same thing. Give me a blog around, I don't know, how to use AI in marketing using the best keywords. And we're not, our background, most of us don't have SEO. We hire outsource. And so we assume that our LLM is generating a blog that we can just copy and paste. And there we are. We created content and we're happy about it. But we can't forget there's the brand voice. There's that question that we always have to ask ourselves is why are we on this path? Because it's not an easy journey that we take. And how is it that we're going to stay relevant, especially in today's world where everyone thinks AI is so simple, remembering there's a gray area that is between the human touch, which is your brand story, your authenticity, your brand voice, what it is that made you start the business that you started in the first place, and then the AI innovative part that is supposed to help us expedite it. But that middle ground is still that human being that needs to help and guide.
Well, I guess the challenge now is that AI is leveling the playing field. I ran a very big agency called Interbrand, and we used to charge hundreds of thousands of dollars for CI manuals and logos and processes, etc. And we had our little black box. So people came to us because we had this sort of secret sauce that not everyone had access to. Whereas now with Canva and Figma and all of these fantastic new tools that are out there, the role of traditional agencies or traditional brand agencies has been absolutely murdered. And I've spoken to a whole bunch of brand agency owners as well that on the outside are smiling, oh, yes, we're doing great. But they're all dying and suffering because majority of the work that was in our black box is now in the AI black box and open to everyone. And to your point of being generic, if it is out in the open and AI is able to generate you an article or blog, it means that it's either been done before, not unique, it is not individual, and it opens up this wonderful space for companies like yourself and thinkers like yourself to help people start doing things that are using AI to obviously improve our work, but to create that real link between our brand and what makes us special and the content that we create, which is going to be lost out by all the generic agencies and generic companies that are going to come out now. So it's a really exciting space. So how do you in particular with Blue Apples go about this? So we all know if you're not using AI, you're being a moron. Literally, you should be using it. So it's that discussion is now even out the window. You have to use it. And if you're not using it, people are saying, why are you not using it? How are you integrating that personal touch into AI?
I think that's the most important question everyone should ask themselves when they sit down to use AI or they hire someone to implement AI into their systems. We all had to do the work before AI. It meant going through understanding what is our, and you come from branding, so you know better than most people. You have your coloring, you have your tone, you have your presentation, you have everything that wants to represent exactly what it is that you're going to be selling. And that work was done almost on a psychological level. And what we've done at Blue Apples is we use the Jungian archetypes to go in and do the work with anyone that comes to us and says, listen, I want to use AI. We say, okay, before you do that, tell me what is your business? Most people say, you know what, I sell energy drinks. Okay, great. Why do you sell energy drinks? Oh, because the market is competitive. I did the market analysis and it's really good and stuff. Okay, but that's not your why. Why did you decide that energy drinks is where you want to put your soul? And that's what branding is, right? It's that connection, that emotional connection that's on a deeper level. And so most people can't answer that question. And we begin the work through this archetype so everyone can use them, but we are using AI together with this psychological approach in order for you to go deeper and understand your why. Once you have that, then you can say, you know what, all in every channel, I'm going to sit in front of my ChatGPT, for example. I'm going to say, write me a blog. I'm going to do the research to understand my tone. I've already have it. My tone is this. My approach is this. My style is this. I want it to impact this kind of customer because I know now who my audience is, not just anyone that comes and buys it. And so you know their pain points. So it's all of the work behind the scenes, let's say, that needs to be done. Kind of like when you're creating a recipe, especially for pastries, it has to be so precise, almost to a scientific level, so that you get the results that you want. It's the same kind of approach. And if you look at it that way, you won't be, I think last year they said there was 4 billion content out there. And by the end of this year, it's predicted to reach between 8 to 10 billion because now everyone is like, oh, yeah, I'm a content creator. Well, okay, good for you. But when I read the first line, I know you're using ChatGPT. And so I'm not going to read the second or third lines. And that's where you want to say, no, let me still remember my human aspect and put that in there. And that's where I think we are differentiating just from the get go as to how we are helping businesses use AI.
It's quite funny. I had another guest a while back talking about AI, and I was specifically about email marketing. And as you mentioned, most of us are so well trained now that the first line we can say, oh, goodness, this is an AI generated piece of content and mass produced out. So what he does is he puts a spelling error in the first line. It's such a silly little thing, but that shows you, oh, a human probably wrote this. So again, trying to bring in that to get past our bullshit radar, because all of us have that radar that can figure out if somebody's like, I get lots of people sending emails to me to be on the show, and I can tell immediately when they've just copied and pasted a ChatGPT prompt. So I love your last episode that you did. The insights were so, they haven't made the voice of the prompt say, use it in my voice, make it sound authentic, not dumb it down, but simplify it so that it has my tone of voice. And people again are very susceptible to, personalized messages. And when you see that it is inauthentic, it immediately turns you off. And I think we're going to see more and more of that as people get more and more aware of how to use these platforms. They get masses of information and are going to start filtering out. I'm sure Gmail and all of these systems are going to start filtering out AI generated content very soon as well. And it comes to your point when we talk about the tone of voice, which is so important. It sounds to me like some of the tools that you're using, I do similar processes in terms of when I set up my prompts. I have my prompt library, and that is absolutely personalized to me. And it is absolutely fine-tuned, making sure my tone of voice is there, make sure that all my articles, all my references have my specific tone of voice, not anyone else that I'm trying to copy on the internet. And to get your authentic voice is very difficult. How, other than obviously using the Jungian archetypes, but how do you squeeze out of somebody who doesn't really think they've got a unique voice? How do you generate a unique voice for your customers? What is the process that you go to help them discover their true self?
That's a great question because I think when I started out and I was working with my business coach who specialized in branding, it was the hardest part for me because we all have different voices. If you're talking to the bank, you have a different voice. Usually you're angry. If you're talking to anything that has to do with government or bureaucracy, you have a different, with your children, with your lover, whatever it may be, we all have different voices. And as entrepreneurs, our businesses are pieces of us. It's very normal that you may have a different voice when it comes to your social media, like Instagram, and then you have a different voice when it comes to your LinkedIn, for example, and your newsletters or whatever it may be. So it's okay to be flexible with your voice. But we have some exercises that we do to get at least 5 adjectives that describe you in totality, so that when you sit down and you want to explore and go deeper with some of the other proprietary work that we do using AI, you say, wow, I like the way that sounds. For example, for my company, Delish, the gifting company, it's completely different than my personal tone of voice. But when I started out, I was always very reflective and poetic. And I'm like, okay, but you're selling gift boxes. You need to add that joyous excitement, that bold, maybe sexy tone. I had to shift. And I wanted the people that were creating the content for me to understand that. So it's parts of us that come out. And that's why I love the fact that Jungian archetypes address so many different sides of so many different personas that we have, so that when we decide how we're going to use and what we're going to use, we're able to then directly implement it.
In this AI age that we're in now, your kind of service is not necessarily going to be a continuous service in terms of somebody comes to you and says, please, I want you to do all my blog posts. You are basically setting people up for success. So similar to what a brand agency would have done, creating a brand guide. Here's your tone of voice, here's your color palette, here's your font, etc. Go forward and conquer. When I look at your AI training workshops, this I think is quite fun. So equipping teams with practical AI skills tailored to the industry, hands-on training, because a lot of folks probably think they want to do this themselves, but they need that guiding hand. How do your workshops generally work?
We dive right in. I mean, literally, maybe because that's how the company's founded with two other friends. And I think we're all those kinds of people that, as you know, as entrepreneurs, you have to do it and you learn along the way. And the ones that sit and do all the research and all the work are the ones that are later. And I'm not saying it does work, but you have to just dive in and not test the water. So we literally say, open your computers, get on your ChatGPT, get on your Gemini, whatever it is that you want to use, and start. And the first prompt is that I like to start with is, do you know Mona Bevar, for example? And it will tell me. If you have any kind of internet web blueprint, something will come up about you. And then the second thing, okay, so you said Mona is the founder of Blue Apples. What is Blue Apples? So you start to ask the questions. And it's almost as if you are a journalist and you're interviewing this LLM. And then slowly you start to go deeper and you say, okay, here, this doesn't resonate. This doesn't work for me. And then you switch the wheel and you say, okay, now you ask me questions in order for you to get to know me better. And then you almost become like, it ends up becoming your best friend, really. And by the end of our 1 day workshops, that's how they feel. They feel like there's some kind of a connection that they didn't anticipate because most people are afraid of it. And from someone, me personally, most of my life, I hesitated everything. And I thought it had to be structured until I sat down and I said, you know what, let's just have fun with AI. I have nothing to lose. And now here we are just having fun. And I'm learning as a 53-year-old woman how to have fun. So I think that's really important and significant.
I did a lecture today on AI prompting with my class, and I said, you probably have done prompting before, but have you done real prompting? And it really is an art in terms of getting the best and an iterative process, getting what you want out of these systems. So it's so great to have a guide like yourself to be able to take people at whatever age, because there's no textbook on this necessarily, well, to be out of date by next week if there was. So it's a really great process to go through. When you've worked in marketing, you know branding, and you know that positioning and selecting the personas of the customers that you want to work for are very important. And a big mistake a lot of people make is they want to be for everyone. So I know you haven't made that mistake. So maybe tell me a little bit about, if a genie had to be in front of you and you could rub the lamp, who is the ideal customer for you? Who is the perfect person? If you had to have your persona, who is that person who should be coming to you?
I definitely think, because I'm going to use the Jungian archetypes, I'm going to be saying the trailblazer, the person that is so go for it and just says yes. Because if there's any moment of hesitation during this period of life that we're living in, where everything is moving so quickly, if you are not standing there, Carl Jung used to use the tarot in order to explain the archetypes, and that's what our guide does. We use the tarot deck. So I have to say the chariot is parallel to the trailblazer. So if you're not standing there like the chariot with the horses guiding you and you telling the horses to go, and it's a race, then you're going to be left behind. So I think it's those people that say, you know what, I may not know what it's all about, but I want to know. And I'm completely open to knowing, because I've had clients that they don't get it, but then they get frustrated and angry, and then you're left, you try to help them as much as you can, but there's just a block. And so they tend to walk away, or we end up having to fire them because it's so new and it's such a frontier that you have to be willing to say, you know what, let me explore every angle of it. And we're also learning. I'm not here sitting here and saying, you know what, I know it all. I may know a little bit more than the next person, but I definitely don't know as much as the person who's in front of me. But I'm on my chariot and I'm saying, you know what, I want to go forward and I want to catch up and I want to consume. Today, I have to prepare a presentation. I have a talk next week or tomorrow for a group of women, solopreneurs, who want to use AI tools, but they want them to be free. And they don't get it, that if you want it to be open source, you need to have the API, you need to download it onto your cloud in order for you to be able to use the OpenAI platforms that are there. But otherwise, if you go and there's on Instagram, everyone's like, use this for free, use this for free. But then there's a trial, or you have a little amount of tokens. And once that runs out, you either have to wait a month or you have to upgrade. And so this is where the challenge comes, where you have to say, okay, listen, you want to use AI, but know that it's not free. Play with it for 7 days, great, and then decide if you're going to move forward or not. Otherwise, you're always going to stay behind. And that my ideal customer or client should not want to stay behind. They should want to be number one.
It must be quite empowering actually for a lot of folks who come to these workshops because, as you mentioned, age wise, I remember when I started out, no Facebook, no YouTube, none of these nice things. And I was learning traditional marketing. So we were using, reading textbooks and, traditional marketing was just called marketing. And then we had all this new media come in. So into the internet and websites and Instagram and Facebook and so on. And now we're having this another huge push into this new dimension. But the difference this time is that, as you said, a 53-year-old woman is now leading the charge in AI. Anyone of any age can leapfrog youngsters, can leapfrog anyone who's got a really technical background. And I think it's even more valuable for people who've got some experience because AI needs to be prompted. You need to know what kind of questions to ask it. If you're a 21-year-old with no life experience, I would rather use Mona and say, please teach me about AI, because you're going to ask the right questions. You're going to have context. You're going to say, wait a minute, what that's saying is not correct. Let's double check that. And I think that is the wonderful thing about AI. It is a great leveler in terms of the age because everyone is starting from scratch. It's so exciting.
Nicholas, I love that you said that about the 21-year-old and life experiences because it is that. You have to know yourself in order to teach the AI to know you. And when I say yourself, you are part of your brand. So that's exactly how it is. And I have to put something as a footnote here. I have not been this woman. It took me years of self work and just growth and being broken and rebuilt and all that in order for me to say, you know what, just have fun. Because I resisted. I remember in the 90s when internet came out, I'm like, no, what? That's going to so go away. Here we are. Social media, I'm like, no, I'm a private person. I want absolutely nothing to do with it, not at all. And then I'm like, had I listened to myself back in the days, I would probably be an influencer today. And so all these things. And when AI came out, it was first the metaverse and NFTs. And I'm like, I'm going to consume this, but only because it's so vast, the possibilities. And so I didn't want to be left behind. And we go back to the chariot archetype. And so you want to be the one that says, okay, let me go because it's so new. Can plant my flag and say, you know what? This is how I'm going to create my open space. And so I think that's what's exciting for me after all these years of like back and forth, trying, learning the marketing that you said exactly was a textbook this thick, that was 4 Ps, the SWOT analysis. And at the end, you're like, okay, and here we are.
Yeah. So some exciting lessons there, and I think the potential again is just so great. And this is really an area where expertise and experience really becomes really important. Now, I do want to ask you, and we did touch on it slightly earlier when I mentioned running a brand agency and how all our money is just dwindling because everyone is being able to do it by themselves. You mentioned you've got partners. Talk to me about some of the challenges of starting a new agency like this. What are tell me about the no's. People have said no to you when you've come up with your offer. I think that's more exciting than the yeses.
I agree. Oh, but the no's are the people that don't get it, mainly because they think they can do it. So one example I'll give you is there was a client we were working with, and we did her brand story, and she was happy with it, and she walked away and said, "Okay, I want the next package to help me write my product descriptions for my e-commerce shop." And so we gave her a quote, and she said, "Oh no, this is so expensive." And I said, "Okay, uh, it's not, because you need to know how to write a product description that can, that will convert, because that's your objective, for someone to go and see the energy drink that you're selling and then say, you know what, it's going to convert. This is, I want to buy this, I want a piece of it. And that's emotional writing, right? Where the necessity is there. And she said, well, you're writing it with AI anyway. And I said, yes, but there is a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes before I sit down in front of ChatGPT and I say, you know what, write me this product description. There's an input. It's a recipe that you've developed. It's steps. And she said no. So she didn't hire us and she went and did her own work. So when you go on her website, you see the product descriptions. First of all, it's completely different than the content that we had written for her brand story. The tone is different, the style is different. She's used ChatGPT, used it in the most basic form that you can use it, has no knowledge of e-commerce and what a product description should be. And so here she is refusing to spend the money, which eventually she will have to spend because I know she's not making money, right? So that's where you say no to me. I don't care. Go sit in front of your ChatGPT. I will even tell you the prompts to give. But in any case, you're not going to walk away with what you need to walk away with, at least not today. And I don't know if you heard, but today the news came out that OpenAI has launched. Sam Altman announced $22,000 a month or $20,000 a month, and you can hire AI agents. Subscription that you'll do that. You're a solopreneur. I'm talking to this woman. You're not going to use that. You can't afford that. Someone like a Coca-Cola might, and they're going to save a lot of money. But if you're not going to understand who you are and what you're all about, then you're going to lose out to the
Yeah.
big people that can afford things.
Yeah, well, I guess part of the challenge in this space is there is that mindset that ChatGPT is doing all the work. Why should we pay you? And I think that's a barrier that a lot of people psychologically have got to get over. It's a free product if you're using the free version, and it does create some nice stuff. But again, it could be the challenge with her could be that she doesn't know what good looks like, Mona. And that's why when she thinks, well, good enough is good enough. And you want to take people to that next level and make it personalized and make it beautiful and really with your years of experience, and I saw some of the lecturing that you do, you know what you're talking about. You know how to sell. So that's a great,
Thank you.
the AI space, we've spoken about a couple of points here, that it's a great leveler, that there are a couple of roadblocks for people psychologically to get over. It's a new industry. I think potentially younger folks are going to get it quicker in terms of the value, but folks who've got experience and people who've got knowledge are going to, it's a knowledge-based economy. And luckily, us older folks have a lot of knowledge. A lot of the younger agencies, like younger designers, aren't going to have the sort of breadth of knowledge of working across multiple industries, understanding different cultures as well, because who says that ChatGPT is going to give you a culturally relevant response if you're a company that is operating in multiple countries as well. So that's, I think, another aspect that maybe folks could get some value from.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I hope they can, because it is absolutely the case that if you're not getting ahead of this revolution, let's say, or this new wave, you have the probability of you getting lost in this whole abyss of it all is huge. And so your business today, everyone says, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a content creator, I do this, I do that. Wonderful, do it. But the of AI is human connection. And if we can't have that, if I come to you and I read your introduction or I look at your website and the first impact is resistance and hesitation because I don't feel anything, I'm going to walk away. So more and more people are doing that. And we go back to what you said. My friend makes, or your client misspells something so that you stay hooked. And it's that first sentence or that title that if we can't get it, you're gone. That's the speed at which we're moving and how our attention spans are decreasing.
Well, I'm just going to take out one last nugget from what you mentioned a little bit earlier, which is that we are expecting hyper-personalization. Before it was just mass personalization. Now we've got hyper-personalization, and people expect it because you have AI. You should be able to give me exactly what I want when I want. So if you're not providing that, and also because you mentioned as well, tons of influencers, tons of entrepreneurs, tons of startups, you're competing in a very easy to enter space. So unless you're standing out with better quality content, content that is going to engage you and hook you, like you mentioned, you're dead before you even started. Okay, great. So folks can have a look at your website to find out a little bit more about you. But Mona, where is the best place people can get hold of you and check out your fantastic book as well?
The book is on Amazon. It's called From Grove to Table. And to get in touch with us or to understand more about AI, they're more than welcome to come to BlueApples.ai and see the resources that we have, free courses, set up a call, a discovery call, just to see what we're all about. And for me personally, they can find me on LinkedIn.
Well, I'm sure by listening to your own tone of voice and your personality on this call, you should get some very interesting folks reaching out to you. Mona, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you. And I really love the idea that you've got here, how human you are making AI. And again, to the point here, you are creating authentic human AI collaboration, which I really love. So thank you for your time today.
I really do appreciate your comments. So why not go and watch this live on YouTube, or go to my website, kuhne.no. That's kuhne.no for more information.